Hello, beautiful humans. It is I, Christina, here at Fit and Bendy in Los Angeles, and we are bringing you our second Happy Hips workout. And this one's just going to get a little bit more muscular, a little bit more strength-based. All you need for this workout is a stair or a low block, something that you can stand on and something you can slide on. So some socks or sliders. All right, we're going to start standing. Let's get ready to do this. We want to start by feeling the way that our legs take our weight. So I'm just going to put my feet hip width apart and parallel side by side and start to rock my weight back and forth, one foot to the other. My knees are straight but not locked out. And as I do that, I notice that my right side is much more comfortable taking my weight than my left side because I'm right side dominant. So when I stand, I tend to stand with my weight in my right leg if I'm not paying attention. Now you might have it opposite. You might be more comfortable on your left side. There are a lot of different reasons that our body determines our dominant side. And you might be pretty even, in which case, congratulations, carry on. But as you do this, you want to just feel if there is a discrepancy, if there is a difference between your right and left, because this next exercise is all about teaching our legs how to be more comfortable taking our body weight and then emphasizing where we need to compensate for imbalances right to left. So if you can start to feel where that discrepancy is, we're going to use that in this next exercise. So you're going to stand on your step or stair, and you're going to put your right foot right up at the edge, and the left foot is going to dangle in the air. And you want to feel like you're trying to stand normally, except there's nothing under this left foot. So your right foot is having to take all your body weight. And this is similar to the exercise we did in Happy Hips 1, where we had to pick up our knee, but now we don't even have to pick up our knee. This leg can just try to get some length. So what I'm having my body do is give all of the work, all of the load to this right leg while this left leg gets to relax, keeping my hips even. So what I'm trying not to do is this, right? Sink that left hip down towards the floor. I'm holding my hips even. That's going to put a lot of work into this right hip. From here, I'm just going to swing this leg forward and back a few times, really trying to let that leg drip long out of the hip socket. I can rotate it a little. And again, I'm just trying to talk to the muscles in this left hip and say, hey, chill out, relax. Right hip is doing it all. And again, because I'm right side dominant, my right leg's like, yeah, no, I totally got this. No problem. And I'm going to now bring this left leg out to the side. And I'm going to do some exercise to strengthen this right leg by bending this knee and just dropping my butt straight down toward my heel and squeezing to come back up. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to send my knee slightly out towards the pinky toe side of my foot. So I'm actually slightly externally rotating this right leg. And hopefully that will help you feel your side butt and the outside of the leg. You really don't want to let that knee turn in as you bend it. It's going to be very hard on your knee and your ankle and your hip. It's just generally something to be avoided. So really think about the knee slightly turning out. It's almost like I'm trying to screw my foot this direction into the block. Let's do 3 more of these. And 2, and last one. And then we're going to step down and shake out that right leg. And hopefully you can feel that work in the right leg of it, learning and feeling the work of taking your weight. And now I'm going to do my non-dominant leg. And for most people, the left side is non-dominant. I would say that's more than 50%. But you might be different. Everybody is. So it's just something that you want to know about yourself. Now, I'm going to put my weight into my left leg and let my right leg dangle, which feels a lot less natural to me, but definitely useful to work on. And again, I'm trying to find even with my hips. I'm soft in my left knee, and I'm thinking about everything from my right hip bone down, just dripping towards the floor. Like, oh, that leg can just get long out of the hip socket. This is also a really great exercise for those of you who might have some leg length discrepancy. You can stand up here with your longer leg or your shorter leg and let your longer leg dangle, and your longer leg will really appreciate that. All right, let's find that rotation in the right leg. all the time, thinking about trying to allow space to come into that right leg, toe getting closer to the floor without any movement in the pelvis, while this left leg learns to get better at weight bearing, at taking my weight. I'm challenging that left leg a little bit. All right, we're going to move that right leg out to the side, and I'm going to feel like I'm screwing my foot into the block, slightly externally rotating it to bend and straighten that knee. And I can feel this work in the left leg. It feels less familiar for sure, but definitely more necessary. And one thing I would recommend is, now that you can maybe start to feel if there's one leg that's better at this exercise than the other, when you do this exercise with me, feel free after this set to just give me a pause and go back and do a little bit of extra on your non-dominant side, because we want to slowly even it out and make both of those sides equally competent at taking our weight. It does a huge amount for keeping our pelvis happy. Let's do 3 more. And 2 and 1, and hop down. And shake out, shake out, shake out those legs. All right, now we're going to use that weight-bearing energy in some squats. And we're going to really try to challenge our hip flexibility in these squats by putting our feet pretty close together and keeping them parallel. And this is definitely a flexibility squat because we have to use a lot of deep hip compression. So I'm going to bend my knees, dropping my butt down towards the floor. And I'm trying to bring my knees up into my chest, get my butt down towards the floor, squeeze my butt to come back up again. And it does make it easier if you bring your arms out in front of you. You can be here, you can be reaching out long. Just helps you to get your weight a little bit further forward. Let's do a couple more like that. And one of the things I'm thinking about is how I just felt how I like to put more of my weight into my right side. So I'm just using my brain to think a little bit more about my left leg and say, hey, do I have enough weight going through my left leg? Are my legs feeling even? Is my left butt helping me come back up as much as my right butt? And starting to pay attention to that. Now, we're going to challenge this even more by trying to bring our feet together. And if that last one felt challenging enough, please stick with it. The closer together our feet get, the harder this squat becomes. So you can try this. You can find any width of feet that feels most challenging for you. And again, we're going to drop that butt down to the floor. I'm thinking of bringing my arms forward to start, to help me bring my chest to my knees. And as I'm doing this, I'm imagining that I'm drawing my knees up to my chest as my butt goes down to the floor. I'm trying to keep my knees touching. Let's do a couple more like this. You might feel a stretch in your lower back. And then if we want to add yet another layer of difficulty, if we bring the arms up behind the head, this becomes even more challenging. It really makes you work your hip flexors to create that deep compression, because if I don't engage the muscles in the front of my hips, I'm going to fall over backwards. Let's do 3 more like that. And 2. And on this last one, we're going to stay down. And I'm going to slowly, I like to do this with my arms out in front, slowly start to lower our butt down towards the floor. And I'm trying to control it for as long as I can. At a certain point, I'm going to lose it. And here we are. All right, go ahead and grab your socks or sliders and your mat and meet me back in this position. All right, now that we're down, we're going to tuck those heels into our butt, squeeze the inner thighs together, and use our hands on our shins to try to pull our chest into our thighs and sit up as straight and tall as we can. Now, hopefully this inspires some delicious, delightful, inspiring work in the upper inner thigh groin muscles. Those are the hip flexors we're trying to target. Those are your iliacus and psoas. If you're feeling it somewhere else, I highly recommend checking out the psoas video that is linked here in order to try to get in touch with those muscles and feel them a little bit more deeply, because that's what we're trying to strengthen here. Now, the more that you sit up tall here, the more those muscles are going to have to work. Keep the thighs completely compressed. And if you feel like you can, you want to extend your arms out in front of you. Now, this should feel like a lot of work in your hips. If you start to get tired, just bring your hands back down. If you're like, hey, this is super easy, I feel like I could do this all day. If you bring your arms up overhead, that's a lot harder. Okay, I'm done with that part. Let's just hold here. Keep trying to sit up nice and tall. We're trying to not let an arch happen in our back. I'm trying to sit up tall and I'm squeezing those inner thighs together. Let's do it for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, spicy, spicy. All right. Let's get into some sliding now. So I'm going to take my leg warmers and pull them down over my feet. You can grab some sliders. If you're on a carpet, grab some cardboard. I'm going to sit in my pike. So I've got my legs straight out in front of me. You can tell I wear these leg warmers a lot. They're falling apart. Sitting up nice and tall, arms like a zombie out in front. And then I am going to curl my spine. So I'm thinking about these muscles, these meat corset muscles, using those to create spaciousness in my lower back. Now, my lower back is not the forward bendiest lower back, but I can definitely feel some space happening in there, and I can feel a lot of work happening here. I'm pulling my abdominal muscles in, my belly button's trying to touch my spine, and I'm going to hold my spine in this position while I press my right foot down into the floor. I'm pushing it down as I drag it in. And again, I'm trying to target those deep hip flexors in the upper inner thigh and groin. Tuck that leg in deeply to my chest. Press that foot back down and extend it out. Let's do the left side. So again, press that leg down into the floor, drag it in. And while we are struggling with this beautiful exercise, I have to say that this exercise comes from Dana Santee at Pilates Anytime. Fantastic instructor, great workout. I love this one so much that I had to include it because it is so good for feeling that relationship between the psoas muscle and the abdominal muscles that support the spine, and really creating this deep compression in the hips that is necessary for things like hamstring flexibility, deep squats, so much of what we are looking for in our overall fitness. We need to be able to be strong, bringing this leg in towards the chest. And quite honestly, if our psoas and iliacus are weak, they're probably also tight. So I think that even if you have very tight hip muscles, it is worth doing these exercises. The only thing that I would caution you against is if your hip flexor muscles are starting to cramp, go ahead and put your hands back behind you for a little bit of extra support here. And maybe don't bring your leg in as far until those muscles strengthen enough to not cramp, because the cramping is not really going to be helpful for you. So feel free to modify as needed. You can even, if your arms don't like holding you in that direction, just lean your back against a wall. The important thing is that you can feel your abdominal muscles making that C shape for your spine, and you can bring the knee in at whatever depth works best for you. We're going to just do one more on the left side. And guess what comes next? Both legs at the same time. Spicy meatballs. Press those legs down into the floor and then curl them into your chest. And again, press them into the floor and see if you can get even deeper into that C-spine. Let's do a few more of these. Now, hopefully you are feeling the delicious work in those hips. I'm starting to get a little shake here. I'm also getting a really nice feeling of lengthening through my lower back as my lower back gets rounder and rounder. And this is such a good exercise for, again, countering some of that stiffness and weakness that comes from sitting. Let's do 2 more, shall we? 2 more. And last one. Slide those knees in, hold here. Turn yourself into a tiny little package for 3, 2, 1. And let's just windshield wiper it out. Move those knees back and forth. Just find a little relaxation. If your hip flexors are cramping, you can go ahead and stop with one knee down and just move that hip back and forth a little bit. And again, if that felt really crampy and brutal, highly recommend checking out Happy Hips 1 that's linked below, just as an alternative to this to help prepare you a little bit better, because this workout is pretty spicy. All right, we're gonna lay on our bellies now and go the opposite direction. Open up those hips and work the butt. So now we're going to counter all of that lovely hip compression with some hip extension using our butt muscles. So you're going to come all the way down on your belly And rest your forehead on your hands. I'm going to keep my head up a little bit so you can hear me and I can continue to talk to you, but you go ahead and rest your forehead on your hands. And then I'm going to lengthen my right side out. So I'm trying to reach my right toes out as long as I can and lift that right leg up in the air. Now, I can definitely come higher if I let my back get into this, but I'm trying to keep my back out of it. I'm actually slightly tucking my pelvis, thinking about lifting my abdominal muscles up away from the floor to push the majority of the movement right into my downstairs butt. So right where my butt and my hamstrings come together, right in that crease right there. I'm also really trying to use my inner thigh muscles to keep that leg from wandering off. It's easy to kind of let that leg open out to the side. We tend to be stronger in those outside muscles, but I'm really trying to get that squeeze in so that my downstairs butt is being targeted. And I'm thinking about using that muscle to lengthen the front of my hips. So we just compress the hips in the last set of exercises, and now we're lengthening the hips and feeling how the butt participates in that. Let's do 3 more, 2, and hold it up. And now I'm going to bend my knee just a little bit. And then I'm going to lift and straighten my leg using that downstairs butt. And I love this exercise. I feel like it really targets the ability of the butt and hip muscles to extend the front of the hip. So you can see that the front of my hip gets more open as I use those muscles to create that length. And I'm thinking about reaching my leg back long behind me. I'm thinking less about going just straight up as I'm going up and out at a diagonal, like I'm trying to poke someone with my toe who's behind me. Let's do 3 more of these. And 2. And last one, and hold that leg up. And hello, butt muscles. See if you can get them to shake just a little so they're squeezing. And then relax it back down, shake it out. And now I'm going to roll onto my left side, and I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to grab my right ankle, and I'm going to use those butt muscles to get just a little bit. This is sort of a combo passive and active stretch because I'm still using my butt muscles to create that stretch, but I've got a little bit of help from my hand here. So I'm stretching those quads, getting into the front of my hip. If you start to notice that your back is arching like I am, you can round forward a little bit more, tuck your pelvis under and bring your left knee forward. And that's going to push more of the work into that right hip to try to get that right leg to get a nice deep stretch. Let's hold that leg back behind and kick your hand, or you take your foot into your hand using those downstairs butt muscles, just like you did in the last exercise, to open up just a little deeper through the hip. And come on forward, shake it out. And again, laying on your left side, we're going to flex that right foot, bring it out long in front of you. We're going to do some little lifts up here, just saying a quick hello to our right side butt. So we can feel the muscles in the outside of the hip here. And if you had a hard time standing on one leg in our introductory series, these side butt exercises are really good for strengthening those postural muscles that help to keep our hips strong and even. Good. Let's do 3, 2, 1. Drop that foot down to the floor. And then I'm just going to roll onto my belly and get that nice stretch through the inner thigh of that right leg. You can slightly bend the knee as well. It's going to slightly change that. And I'm almost thinking of trying to roll onto my right side. I'm trying to press my right hip down to the floor and look to the left to get deep into that groin stretch. And I just think that this stretch feels so good. It just feels like hip candy. And a little bit of breath here, rolling into it. And then we're going to bring that leg back behind us and start again on the other side, left side. So hands are on the floor, forehead resting on the hands. I'm going to reach that left leg out long like there's someone behind me that I want to poke with my toe, and little lifts up. And again, check in and make sure that your back isn't doing the work. The back muscles may be on, but you don't want them to be shifting, right? I don't want to feel that shift in the back. I'm trying to keep the back relatively still. So if I put my hand on my back, I can't feel it moving a lot. What I can feel moving are the muscles right underneath my butt, that butt-thigh connection, because those are the muscles that really help to open up the front of the hip, create that openness that we want after all that delicious hip compression. Teaching our leg to work both going forward and going backward for flexibility in all directions. Let's do 4, 3, 2, and hold it up. And now we're going to do that little tiny bend and lift and straighten. And hello downstairs butt. And feeling how that length through the front of the hip comes from that deep engagement. This is a fantastic exercise for those of you with naturally bendy backs and tight hips. If you're curious about that phenomenon, I got a video on that you can watch. It is something that you find a lot in the contortion and circus community of bendy backed people, where that bendy back kind of takes over from the hips. And this is a great exercise for countering that by creating that strength in the hip that we need to have more flexible hips. Let's do 3 and 2 and 1. Hold, 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 squeeze, 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 and down. Let's roll onto that right side. Bring that leg back behind you, grab it with your hand, and I'm gonna curl my body in just a little bit, preemptively taking it out of my back because I know how bossy my back is. And I'm gonna try to feel those same muscles and how they bring that leg back behind me. And hopefully you can feel a really nice stretch through the front of that left hip there. We're gonna do a few more. And I really have to remind myself to use my abdominal muscles to keep my back from arching. Maybe you don't. Maybe your back doesn't want to arch that much. Congratulations. On this last one, let's hold that leg back and use those downstairs butt muscles to try to straighten the leg back. Obviously, it's not going to straighten with your arm holding onto it like this, but it's going to change the stretch slightly. Get a little bit more into the hip, a little less into the quad. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Let it go. And we're going to flex that foot and bring it out in front of us. Little lifts up towards the ceiling. Happy side butt. And, as we have discussed, might feel a little bit different on the left side than it did on the right side. Feel free to do extra on the side that needs it. The idea is that these muscles are important to keep strong for our entire lives. They're what keeps our pelvis stable as you get older, which hopefully you will get to do. They will become the muscles that prevent us from having falls, hip replacements, all sorts of things down the road. So just keep them strong. Whole life. Yay, side butt. 3, 2, 1, and let's drop that leg down to the floor. And it's time for our yummy reward stretch that we get on the other end. Pressing that left hip bone down into the floor. I'm kind of looking to my right. Maybe bend the knee slightly, changing that stretch just a little bit. Feels good. And I'm trying to get my left hip bone to touch the floor and maybe even get my right hip bone up off the floor as my pelvis rotates away from my leg. And I look back over my right shoulder to get a little bit deeper. All right. Yay for rewards. We got a little more work to do though. Go ahead and roll over onto your back. And extend both legs out long. And now we're going to go back into some hip compression, this time with a straight leg so we can get a little bit of a hamstring stretch. So you're going to reach that right leg out long, lift it up at the top, give it a little bit of a pull, and try to hold it there. Little pulses in towards your face. So now I'm using these muscles in the groin underneath my abs, the inner thighs to try to bring that leg up. Be careful of letting that hip ride up. I'm trying to keep my hip bones even. And this kind of active flexibility is a big part of what makes this workout classified as spicy. If it feels like too much, feel free to do happy hips. One, it's a fantastic workout, and the leg lifts that we do up off the wall will prepare you for doing these. Let's go ahead and flex and point that foot. Holding that leg up. And stop with the foot pointed. We're going to do some big circles. So opening that leg out to the side. Get it as close to the floor as you can without letting your hips shift. Swing it slowly around, reaching that leg long out of the hip socket and lift it straight back up. Let's do one more in this direction. Open it out to the side. Using those muscles to control the leg. There's no movement in the shoulders, no movement in the hips, Only that leg is moving. If everything else is moving, if you're having a hard time controlling it, make that circle smaller. Let's switch directions. So I'm going to lower this leg down, hovering it just off the floor. I'm going to try to keep it as close to the floor as possible. As I open that leg out to the side, then inner thigh work, squeeze that leg back into center. And I love going this direction because that squeezing of the leg into center really helps you feel the connection between the inner thigh and the psoas. So I'm squeezing it in. I'm also trying to bring it in closer to my face. And let's lower it down. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So now I'm shifting my hips slightly to reach that left leg out as long as I can, and I'm using those deep muscles to lift my left leg up, little pulses in towards my face. Now I'm using that psoas strength, that iliacus strength that I built in my C-spine exercises earlier to try to create my hamstring flexibility. Let's do 3, 2, 1. I'm going to hold it here. Flex and point, flex and point. And I'm really just using my ankle movement kind of as a distraction while I work my hip flexors. But it's good to I love to always have movement going as I'm stretching. I think it's really good for your nervous system, helps you train your muscles to be supple and responsive no matter what's going on. Let's stop with that toe pointed, and we're going to open the leg out to the side. Get it as close to the floor as you can with no movement anywhere else. Squeeze it into center and lift straight up. No shifting in anything else in the body. This is very similar to a Pilates leg circle. Those are usually done faster, really trying to control the body against momentum. Here, we're really going for a range of motion. We're trying to make the circle as big and controlled as possible. Now I'm lowering down. I'm externally rotating. I'm opening it out to the side. How close can I keep that leg to the floor? And once I get as high as I can, squeeze that inner thigh and bringing it up and in towards my face. One more time in this direction. Dropping that leg down. Hip bones stay even. So I'm trying not to let my hip bones shift. They want to, but I'm trying to keep them still and squeeze that leg in. Hold for one moment. And I'm going to bring my other leg up. And I'm going to externally rotate my legs and open out to straddle. So we've used those last couple exercises to prepare us for finding our straddle. If your legs are dying here without the support from the wall, please go back to Happy Hips 1 where we use the wall to support the legs. This should feel relatively relaxed and comfortable. If it doesn't, the wall is your friend. From here, I'm going to try to find internal and external rotation in my hip sockets. Now, internally rotating with your legs open and straddle feels kind of weird. It might feel a little kind of clunky. And generally, when we go into internal rotation, our legs are going to come up. We're going to lose a little bit of our range, and that's totally fine. We just want to be able to find these muscles in this position. So internal, and then those butt muscles work for external. Let's do 2 more of these. And then generally, you'll find that, your legs will be a little closer to the floor after doing that. They open up just a little bit more. From here, hands go on the inner thighs. We're going to squeeze those inner thighs, pushing up into the hands, and then switch, push the hands down, put the hands on the bottom and push their legs down into your hands. Let's do that one more time. Inner thighs, squeeze, resist the stretch. And then outer butt helps you go even deeper into the stretch. And we're just going to hang out here for a moment and think about using your outside butt muscles to open your legs out a little wider, get them a little closer to the floor for 3, 2, 1. And now those inner thighs are going to work slow, 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 bringing the legs together for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come back to parallel, bend the knees, feet go flat on the floor, and we just work those hip muscles again. So now we're going to end with a little opening through the front of the hip. So I'm going to press both feet down into the floor, pull my heels in towards my butt, and now I'm going to use those hamstrings, those downstairs butt muscles, that C-spine that I've been creating, that length through the tailbone, to just lift up into a little shoulder bridge and roll back down. I'm not trying to go super high. I'm trying to feel the curl in my lower spine, the opening through the front of the hips, and the lengthening of my knees out over my toes to even out my back. And again, I'm trying to go for evenness. So I know that I have more mobility on the right side. I'm trying to think into my left side a little bit more. Maybe it's the opposite for you. Maybe you're even. But if you notice that one side needs more attention, even just using your brain to think about that side a little bit more will help to even that out. And slow, every time you roll down, try to feel one part of your back at a time touching down. And on this last one, we're going to float the spine up. Find that delicious C-spine. Lengthen those knees away. Pull the backs of your legs. Maybe the arms reach up over your head. Think about your fingers reaching one direction and your knees reaching the other direction for the long stretch through the front of your body. And we're going to slowly roll down here, starting with the mid-back and then the lower back and then the tailbone. All right, beautiful human beings. That felt great. Hopefully it felt great for you too. If it didn't, or if you have any questions, leave them all below. And please like and subscribe and turn on notifications because I got so much more where this came from. Thank you so much for watching and happy bendings.